Oh my god! Jujutsu Kaisen just revealed a major piece of the puzzle about Kenjaku's plans and the King of Curses Sukuna in this week's chapter 187. And believe it or not, Kenjaku is on his way to give competition to Aizen himself when it comes to being a mastermind. Only if I can plan my life as well as them, because my parents, till this day, still bring up the fact that I'm not a doctor. You not a doctor? Why? Why you no doctor? Go doctor, yeah? Doctor, yeah? We have been fooled for over 187 chapters. Kenjaku has planned Sukuna's revival, plotting every single thread together to make sure it happens by the end of the culling game. Number 1, Itadori eating Sukuna's finger, that was Kenjaku. Number 2, Saturo Gojo being the strongest sorcerer, not according to Kenjaku. Number 3, Toji Fushiguro getting involved with Gojo and Geto in the incident with the Star Plasma Vessel mission. Yeah, that was Kenjaku. That's how deep Kenjaku's pockets go in the involvement of every single event in the history of sorcery. And since you all know that we like to go balls deep, we have even found evidence that Kenjaku caused the ancient Six Eyes user and the Shadow Curse technique user to actually kill each other according to the story that Gojo told his student Megami. The past few chapters have been straight up fire! With Hakari battling against Kashimo, a side character that garnered much interest since he seemed fixated on fighting the strongest opponent he can, who is none other than Sukuna. Both Kenjaku and Sukuna have been in the limelight since the beginning of the story, but ever since the Shibuya arc, there are even more clues that they are connected to each other in more than one way. They both are the two oldest creatures living in the JJK world right now, and that is other than Tengen Sama, who almost, he's 1200 years old and he looks like my big fat toe. I'm just saying. Overall, the two are surely displaying their 1,000 years worth of strength and intellect throughout the story. We even saw Kenjaku call out Sukuna to inform him about the beginning of the Heian era and the golden age of curse techniques in chapter 136. Earlier, we saw Hakari absolutely demolish the manga artist Charles Bernard. For the first half of the fight, Hakari didn't even take his hands out of his pockets, just flexing on the guy. But when he did, Charles should have realized, fam.
I'm in danger!
Hakari used his mind-boggling domain expansion on Charles. Yeah, the one with the big-ass explanation and you guys always get confused. But we came to know that Hakari is absolutely freaking nuts for having a domain that guarantees his win and makes him immortal for 4 minutes and 11 seconds after he hits the jackpot of his idle death gamble. What's more is that Hakari even gets unlimited curse energy in that interval of time, to the point that Hakari can subconsciously use reverse curse technique to heal himself of any damage. Remember how Yuta mentioned that Hakari, when he gets worked up, he's stronger than I am in chapter 146? Well, as we see more of Hakari in the Culling Games arc, it's more apparent why he is on the list of characters who will match Saturo Gojo, I should say Saturo freaking Gojo someday, as the people who have pressed the notification bell for our channel have already seen our previous video covering this in huge detail. So make sure you do so now. Don't be a silly willy like the others being left out of our community and not being on the same page.
Like and subscribe!
In chapter 185, Hakari made a banger of an entrance, whilst Kashimo, he was absolutely decimating Panda, who refused to give up Sukuna's location to him. Panda's siblings are no more in the story. Their cause died, and with their father Yaga also being executed, the only person that can fix him up is Gakuganji, as he learnt the secret curse technique behind their creation before killing Yaga. So rest in peace, Panda. Peta will be hunting down Kashimo for that one. I'm sorry. Hakari has been a hype machine, especially since Akutami's tribute made a reference to one of my favorite artists, Michael Jackson, in chapter 186. Hakari's living up to his name, knocking the air out of an ancient sorcerer. However, what makes this fight interesting is that he has immaculate Hisoka vibes. Cut. Not that. It's that Kishimo is not an ordinary opponent at all. Firstly, Akutami introduced a new concept called curse energy traits in his fight through him. Kishimo noticed that Hakari was paying no attention to the electricity in his curse energy. It means that Kishimo can envelop attacks with curse energy with a trait that cannot be blocked. In this case, electricity. But Hakari's extremely high curse energy allowed him to completely ignore that and counterattack comfortably. Even when Kishimo legit blew off Hakari's arm, he regenerated it almost instantly. And I'm not gonna lie, this gave me hope for Todo getting back his curse technique. We can only hope for that Chad of a man to get his arm back. But what's even more important about Kishimo is that even against such insane odds, he isn't scared at all. Kishimo even declared that he will destroy Hakari in the 4 minutes 11 seconds in which he is immortal. And the reason behind this thirst to kill the strongest opponent is that Kishimo is actually a sorcerer from 400 years ago in the body of a vessel. This is where the real hype begins, everyone, because we got the answer on how exactly did Kishimo know about Sukuna if both of them lived in completely different eras.
Oh my god! Okay, it's happening! Procedure! Stay calm!
We also got a glimpse into how Kenjaku had planned out the players of the Culling game through his interaction with Kishimo in the past. Let's go back to memory lane, going back to some 400 years ago. It turns out that Kishimo was some sort of Kenpachi and was always in search of a strong opponent to fight. He even destroyed what seemed like a village and legit severed every opponent he could find. But even then, Kishimo looked dejected, as if he was the one who lost a battle, and then entered the man of the moment, none other than Kenjaku, witnessing his depression. And of course, Kenjaku was in another vessel, as the stitches on his forehead are very prevalent. These stitches give me nightmares, man, because I wonder just how many vessels Kenjaku must have used to travel more than 1,000 years to this era. Kenjaku asks Kishimo if he had fun killing all the people, but he refused. To somehow satisfy Kishimo's endless search for an opponent that would excite him, Kenjaku informed him about a sorcerer with the highest curse energy output in the Mutsu province. And you guessed it right, this was our Pompador hairstyle man Ryu Ishigori that Yuta Akotsu had defeated only a few chapters ago. If you're confused about this whole Mutsu province and the timeline, I got you. That's why you should be subscribed to us. Mutsu province is one of the many old provinces of Japan that existed in the years 654 to 1869. Today, Mutsu province consists of Fukushima, Miyagi, Iwate, and Aomori prefectures and a couple of regions of the Okita prefecture. And if you remember, Yuta Akotsu and Ryu were fighting in the Sendai, the capital of the Miyagi prefecture. So it seems that Ryu's home was in the Miyagi prefecture back when the Mutsu province actually existed 400 years ago. Judging from how Kishimo is 400 years old sorcerer, we can place him and Ryu to be originally existing in the early 17th century or the 1600s. Moreover, there's another thread that connects current events to the past. The Mutsu province was under the control of the Osu Fujiwara family in the Heian period. Again, the people who have pressed the bell icon know the importance of the Fujiwara clan from this video. But just to remind you, Yuta's other opponent, Takako Uro, accused him of being from the Fujiwara clan. Now this is a sick detail that Gege Akutami has placed because she was also fighting in what was once the Mutsu province ruled by the Fujiwara clan. And it doesn't stop there. A very small but important detail comes from the tale about a member of the Fujiwara clan, Fujiwara no Sanakata. He was a renowned poet in that era but was exiled by the emperor over an argument. However, here's the interesting part. Fujiwara no Sanakata Hata is believed to have turned into a yokai or a spirit from Japanese folklore. Well, doesn't that sound insanely familiar? We know that Sukuna turned into a cursed spirit even though he was born as a human being. We even discussed a similar lore of Sukuna getting exiled from the Nihon Shoki earlier. This tells us that it's all connected.
Okay, thanks Adil, but I want to bring it back to the original story. You see, Kenjaku's information didn't interest Kashimo either, and he wanted to know more about the strongest sorcerer instead. Kenjaku states that it's Sukuna, the king of curses, who is the strongest. Now, just keep in mind real quick that this is a time when Kenjaku had no knowledge of Gojo, because I mean, the man wasn't even born yet. But we definitely see him acknowledging Gojo's strength in an indirect way later on, since he decided that there was no way he or even the special grade cursed spirits with him could kill Gojo. Anyway, Kenjaku told Kashimo that Sukuna existed 600 years ago and not in the present time, indirectly implying that he had lost the chance to go up against Sukuna. We also see Kashimo coughing and throwing up blood, telling us that he had exerted his body beyond the norm and was gonna die soon too. Let alone Sukuna, it seemed that it wouldn't even get to the next town in that shape. He had to give up on his thirst for battle and die, unless Kashimo cooperated with Kenjaku, the master of manipulation that Kenjaku is. He knew that even in his last moments, Kashimo was unsatisfied. Kenjaku deliberately told him about Sukuna and got him to sign up for the Culling Games just to get a chance to face off against the King of Curses. And thus, we can say that is how Kenjaku went around making several deals with sorcerers of the past to join the Culling Games. But the most important information that we took away from this is that Kenjaku made a deal with sorcerers like Kashimo on the basis of the fact that he knew Sukuna was going to be revived. Or more like he was going to make sure that Sukuna gets revived by the end of the games. He had spent thousands of years coming up with this perfect plan, even going as far as being Itadori's mother, as we see in chapter 143. He even used the body of Noritoshi Kamo to create the death painting cursed wombs in the Meiji era. Now, this can also imply that Kenjaku carefully crafted every little step of the Jujutsu Kaisen story as we've seen up until now, such as Tsumaki falling into a coma because otherwise it had to be a crazy coincidence that 1. Itadori ate Sukuna's finger and turned out to be the perfect vessel for the King of the Curses, and now we know that it was definitely because of Kenjaku's involvement in his birth, and that there's a high chance that Itadori is actually the perfected death painting cursed womb. 2. Toji Fushiguro got involved with Gojo and Geto in the incident with Riko Amanai and tanked the whole Star Plasma Vessel mission, as Tengen informed in chapter 145, and Gojo became the strongest sorcerer. 3. Geto Suguru had the innate curse technique of cursed spirit manipulation that was perfect for Kenjaku's objectives, and Geto had to be killed at some point for Kenjaku to use his body. 4. Even Prison Realm fell into Kenjaku's hands, which he slyly used as the only way he could take out Gojo as the biggest barrier in his plans. But we're not done yet. Lastly, number 5. Mahito and Itadori were each other's character foils and the ideal opponents for each other's growth, especially Mahito, since Kenjaku planned to betray him from the start and needed him to evolve to gain his cursed technique. Whew, that was a lot. We can't even count the number of events that can't just be explained by coincidence anymore. It's actually crazy. It looks like every conjecture in the story has all been constructed around some central goal of Kenjaku and nobody has any clue. For example, let's go back to the conversation that Gojo and Megumi had in chapter 117's flashback. Back then, Gojo tells Megumi about a fight between the heads of the Gojo and Zenin clans that ended with both of them dead. They both had the exact same techniques as Gojo and Megumi, i.e. the 6 Eyes and Limitless and 10 Shadows technique. But why did these two fight? Well, using our balls deep prediction technique, we know that Kenjaku was the one who pit them against each other in a bid to eliminate the 6 Eyes user. Looking at how desperate Kenjaku was to trap Gojo, he admitted to us in modern times that he had been trying to kill all 6 Eyes users in the history of JJK, but they kept respawning and became a menace to his plan regarding Tengen. Kenjaku realised that capturing Gojo was much more effective than trying to kill him. All of this is proof that everyone in the story is simply like puppets to Kenjaku's plan, and any struggle against it just contributes to the plan. This is even worse than the Gote 13 versus Aizen in my opinion. That's because not only does Kenjaku's plan have massive consequences for the whole of Japan, if not the world, as well as involves a huge lot of innocent people. But also, if you think about it, even by fighting in the Culling Games, we can say that Itadori and others are pushing Kenjaku's plan further. As Reggie said in chapter 167, Kenjaku has some other motives like using the cursed energy of the players instead of just weeding out the weakest ones. So we can say that everyone is just a tool and that Kenjaku has planned out everything. I mean, we may as well start calling this guy Gege Akutami because he might as well be the goddamn author at this point. Jeez, man. My guy is big brain. Like, really big brain. Anyway, Reggie also said that Kenjaku will drop another bomb when only the strongest people remain, meaning there is a powerful card up his sleeve, and I think that Sukuna's revival is one of the ultimate goals that we can see Kenjaku aiming for. What could be the reason, you may ask? He did tell Sukuna at the end of the Shibuya arc that he wants to bring back the Heian era, and as we know, Sukuna was the untouchable dominant in the Heian era, even against vicious sorcerers. We also know that Sukuna is playing his own little game with his binding vow with Itadori in place already, and his interest in Megumi's abilities that we discussed earlier. Just how does Sukuna plan to use Enchain and against who? It is possible that he plans on stealing Megumi's ability or even using him for his resurrection, but there's a massive chance that Sukuna will not simply be controlled by Kenjaku. As far as we've seen Sukuna, he's highly individualistic and does everything on his own terms. So we can sense some friction between him and Kenjaku when it comes to cooperating on some sort of evil plan. I mean, Sukuna didn't even want to collaborate with Jogo and the other cursed spirits at Shibuya and proposed a duel to the death instead of just saying, yeah, right. There is absolutely no chance that Sukuna will just let Kenjaku's plan regarding him be some kind of walk in the park, unless they both also have some sort of binding vow in place, as they are both from 1000 years ago. In that case, it would be like moving a mountain for our good guys to win this fight and stay alive. This just might be a piece of the puzzle for the ending of Jujutsu Kaisen overall. I mean, think about it. The good guy's objective in this game is to unseal Gojo, whilst the bad guy's goal is to resurrect Sukuna. This just confirms yet again that Saturo Gojo versus Sukuna is inevitable, ladies and gentlemen. Well, for now, we can sit down and wait for this banger of a fight between Kashimo and Hakari to go down. If somehow Kashimo defeats Hakari, it would mean that he would be a tough competition for 15 Fingers Sukuna, because Hakari definitely feels qualified for being a special grade. This reminds me of Gojo's dream and how he told Principal Kakukanji that the grades of sorcerers would be meaningless in the future, and Hakari is living proof of that. Let alone being a special grade, he is legit immortal, and he can use his domain expansion infinite times as long as his cursed energy is replenished with the jackpot. And on top of that, the probability to hit the jackpot increases every single time. Broken. Okay, now if you enjoyed this video and you want some more Jujutsu Kaisen content, then there's a video on your screen right now which I think you should go watch. Go on. I'll probably see you over there. Bye bye.